Welcome back to Mantle Mondays. I'm your host, Amar Varma, co-founder and CEO of Mantle. As founders, we talk a lot about changing the world. We do it through building companies, ideas, and concepts to scale. Today, we're looking at what it actually looks like when the mission is literal. Our guest today is Colin Hennigar. As a leader at SickKids Foundation and a driving force behind the Upside Foundation, Colin is the architect of helping Canadian tech ecosystem bake in impact from day one. Colin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Omar.
I think we talk a lot about this in life about, making the world a better place. You're literally doing that day in and day out, not just locally, nationally, globally. We can get into some of the global programs that you've been able to kick off, but I'm going to age myself here. Let's rewind the tape. Walk us through the journey that landed you at the intersection of working with folks in the tech industry and institutional philanthropy.
Thanks, Omar, and thanks for inviting me to be on today. I feel I have the best job in the not-for-profit sector and the charitable sector, getting to wear two hats of Chief Development Officer of SickKids Foundation and now Chief Development Officer of the Upside Foundation of Canada. And really our intersection with the tech community goes back around 10, 12 years when we were looking at how do we expand our donor base. I mean, the work that we are in is how do we raise money to help the hospital achieve its mission of healthier children, a better world. And we were looking at new sectors, we realized no one else was really looking at the founder sector, the tech sector, the entrepreneurial sector as individual donors and companies that could give back. One of the pillars that we established when we launched Tech for Sick Kids around a decade ago was really partnering with the Upside Foundation of Canada. Because as we discovered, founders were doing really well in life, that didn't mean that they could give a large donation at that time. And the Upside Foundation of Canada presented a great opportunity to partner and engage founders in a completely different way that we believe no other charities at that time were thinking. And so our goal was to engage those founders early in their careers, steward their interest in giving to an organization like SickKids, and hopefully seeing that liquidity event one day that would benefit the hospital.
Amazing. Uh, there's a lot there. You spent years with high net worth donors. What was the aha where, you're like, hey, founders are time poor, cash poor, but they can still give? What was kind of your give back?
The aha for us was when we realized that establishing our legacy program around 15 to 20 years ago, whereby individuals could put sick kids in their will. And so when an event happened, we received a portion of that will. And we were starting to think of equity and founders. We were thinking the same way that it's a better outcome, but they're making a commitment for the future, almost a value of nothing at this point, but it could be something so much greater at a certain time when it would come back to the charity. So we already had this type of program in place. This was just a different vehicle for a new sector and a group of individuals to participate in. So for us, it wasn't new in terms of how we engaged the donors. For us, it was new in the vehicle that we used to engage the donors.
Got it. All right. There's this category of equity as an asset for good, right? Let's talk about the Upside Foundation. I've marveled and admired this organization for years. For folks listening or watching, why is this a must-have for folks who are in this business as a founder, either a seed stage or a Series A stage, or somebody's already dealing with dilution and actually want to pledge their equity to a charity and a small portion of it, and maybe just back up and explain a bit about the Upside Foundation.
Sure. So the Upside Foundation was established over 10 years ago, really founded by Jeannie Goldstein, Rob Antoniadis, and Mark Skapinker. And they had this vision of engaging founders to give back because they thought that the tech and founder sector should be giving back at different stages of the life cycle of their company and their journey. Really what happens is that at the earliest point possible, ideally, a founder or a company pledges equity in their company to the Upside Foundation of Canada. We take care of all the administration around that. When there is a liquidity event, that money comes directly to the Upside Foundation of Canada, and we ensure that that donation is made to any registered Canadian charity that benefits the communities across the country that are important to the founder and the staff of that company. So when we started to dig into why this is important for founders and why they should do this, what we realized is that many founders are focused on building that company, but we know that a lot of consumers and clients are looking for companies that do good. And so the Upside Foundation creates this great answer where you can do good and you can build your company at the same time. And so by pledging that 1%, and when you think of the dilution, as you go through those rounds, you're giving up, you could say 5, 10, 20% each time that round happens. What we're talking about is 1%. And that 1% could be $5,000, it could be $10,000, it could be multi millions of dollars. We don't know. But in the grand scheme of things, we're saying that 1% can do greater than you ever thought you could at this point in your career.
Amazing. And I think let's give some flowers here. I think some real, not just OGs, but real thought leaders in some of the names that you mentioned that it really kicked off this Upside Foundation, and some really great minded, great heart folks who've built it. So I want to give some flowers there. I think the answer is when you hear this, it's like, okay, and there's kind of it's a bit of a bank shot. But when they come with the big check and it has, 6, 7 zeros on it, it's pretty amazing to see the outcomes of these things. So I really, really hats off there. I see this sometimes. I've seen Mantle. We have all these company cap tables. I see the charity line item sometimes when I'm an investor in these companies, and it makes my heart glow. And we'll spend a long time working with founders and companies, just to get to know them, get to understand what they're building. When I see that, I it tells me there's a special discussion to be had. And the discussion is I'm excited to hear the answer no matter what it is as to why. And that is something that really is exciting for me. How do you see this on your side when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, we're going to do this pledge. It's 1% of my equity. I want to go in." And what's that say about these folks and their character to you?
So to us, they are doubling down on their vision to be successful because now they owe it to someone else to be successful, not just themselves. They are actually putting it on their cap table that not only will benefit their employees, their consumers, their investors, the founders themselves. They're actually now accountable for benefiting others with that equity stake. So we have heard that when investors like yourselves or those looking at the cap table see the Upside Foundation of Canada, it endears them even more to wanting to support because they have this vision of being more successful than they ever could have been because they want to give back in a different way, not just through their equity to themselves and their investors and such, but to support the communities of Canada.
I heard it yesterday at our breakfast. Can you share like a real time example of someone turning small paper into big paper into
Yeah. We
money?
actually shared another example this morning at CAX where we had the opportunity to reintroduce the Upside Foundation of Canada. And I had the great privilege of taking the stage. And these two founders were actually in the audience, David Bloom and Jason Tam of Level Jump. And in 2019, they reached out to us really interested in donating their 1% to SickKids through the Upside Foundation of Canada. And so we invited their whole staff in and we had a big check. You see the big checks from an event, a big check. And instead of putting an amount, we put 1%, and we took a picture and we publicized that. So there was a media story around this company investing 1%. Fast forward 3 years later, and this company was acquired by Salesforce. And it was during the pandemic, and I'll never forget David and Jason calling me and asking if I could jump on the phone and computer so they could see my face when they told me how much that 1% was. And I won't share the number, but it was definitely impactful.
I
And when
think
we
your
look
guys
at
had a
where
social
that
proof on it. It was big. It was nice.
it was pretty incredible. And when we look at what that did, it was one of the gifts that helped catalyze our AI program at SickKids. And when we look back at where we are now able to predict kids going through the emergency room and triaging them faster with better outcomes. We are able to predict, when a child might have a cardiac arrest in our PICU. That donation actually gave the funds to those scientists, researchers, nurses, software engineers to pursue ideas they had, and now I have put them at the bedside to make them a reality. So that 1% on a check turned into an incredible donation that helped with others catalyze actual treatment and care and outcomes for children, not only at SickKids, but now we're sharing that algorithm and technology across the country.
Yeah, let's get into that. I think this is super interesting. I think it might be appropriate to tell everybody here how we met. We met oof,
10 years ago, I looked in our records last night.
And if not more. Okay, so you got the records. It's been a decade plus. Quick personal journey for me. Patient parent of the institution to kids, and it's been an incredibly uh, humbling experience to be there. An incredibly great experience when I'm not there to really be able to understand the impact of that institution, not just locally but now nationally and internationally. And we'll get into some of the international and national programs that are there in terms of why that's important. Um, and then most people obviously think of the hospital as care and service, but there's a bunch of things that are going on in terms of an IP engine that I want you to walk through as well. I kind of view it as Fox's old job at Wayne Enterprises before before he got the big job, kind of a thing. Um, and then we met because you were like, "Hey, let's get involved." And one of the things I think as founders is they're always like, "Nah, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later." And then when the moment comes, it's like, should I? Can't I? Should I? How much? Right? And there's all this psychology. So I'll just chime in to start. I think it's important for people to, if they're interested, to have a muscle memory about doing something, whether it's time, money and time, some kind of thing that is a cause for you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be philanthropy. It's got to be something, and it doesn't have to be big. Everybody kind of looks at it and goes, I'm not ready to give that big gift. And I go, I think my first gift might have been $1,000 if I had to look it up, and it went 1, 5, so 6 figures, 7 figures, and it was a journey on it, because as I got into it and a few other charities, I was like, hey, these are the ones that really resonate with me, what I'm about at my core and my fabric. So I think that was really something special, and I catalyzed that with our relationship in it. And now last year I joined the foundation board. Thank you for having me, and it has become a mission that we all share now. So with that background, you've been an incredible, you know, steward of this foundation over the last decade. Let's talk about things people should know about the hospital, things they should know that they don't, that they, you definitely don't think they know in terms of the IP, and then kind of this concept of precision child health.
Loaded question there. So why don't I start out? Thank you, Omar. Thank you for all your support and being such a great champion and ambassador for SickKids and the sector and Upside Foundation. Last year, we celebrated 150 years of being a hospital in Toronto. And we were also named the number one children's hospital in the world. Out of 250 other children's hospitals, which is a huge coup when you think of our healthcare system. But what helps set that apart is the incredible people we have within the hospital, the incredible programs and care, the research that we do, the global impact, which you mentioned, and also the role that the community plays in supporting us, which is very unique and transformative. And a lot of what takes good to great at organizations is philanthropy. We invest in the research that allows our scientists to take an idea into reality. We invest in pilot programs and care that results in the government taking over that because we've proven it a success. So the role of philanthropy and being that pilot, being that catalyst for new ideas, new discoveries, hate to say it, new cures sometimes, that is what philanthropy does for us. Precision Child Health is our new vision for the hospital. And what that really means in a nutshell is we want to understand the child from their genetic code to their postal code. And previously, medicine is focused, primarily on the genetic code. What are you born with? What are your genes? What might be some differences in those genetic codes that you have inside your body that you're born with? But what happens when we look at the postal code, where you grew up, how you grew up, your family unit? Did you grow up by an ocean, a lake, a field, a nuclear plant? All of these factors now blend in to you as an individual. And we believe we can treat better, predict faster, and treat more effectively if we understand both sides of that equation. So we are investing in AI. As you very well know, we are investing in improving our data. When we look at AI, we have a huge responsibility. One error by using AI in healthcare is horrible. One error in using AI in children's healthcare is horrendous. And so we really have to be responsible in how we work with our data and AI.
Yeah, I'm going to interject with on you there because I think that's a really important point. I think we in tech have this luxury of trying something, and if it breaks or it's wrong, it's part of the learning journey. Everything's fine. What's the downside? Some lost time and money, and maybe some learning is the upside, right? You make that mistake in something mission critical,
The trust is broken.
the trust is broken, and the damage and outcome could ultimately be death, right? Like,
You're
and
exactly right. And Amar, what our vision is actually creating a center for responsible artificial intelligence. And that's what sets SickKids apart from other hospitals. Not to say they're not responsible by any means, but when it comes to children's health, we actually want to put that at the forefront, that it is responsible artificial intelligence that we are focusing on, because our little ones from age 0 up to 18, require that diligence and the trust in the organization, in the people, and in the science.
yeah. And then the other thing I think is important, maybe just rewinding a bit what you were talking through is I think what's eye opening for me is people think, oh, it's a in Canada it's a publicly funded health system, and I'm like, it is, but have you looked at the books, right? And what I think is missing is the reason foundations like this exist is there's a gap between funding, operating costs, and that gap has to be filled by foundations and other types of sources. So I think people miss that, but their expectation is everything's just covered, right? And I think maybe describe the role of the foundation a bit and why it's important, and kind of then we can get into some of Dr. Cohn's, who's the CEO now, talking about some of the procedures that happen for children that are more cost than the same procedure happening for adults, and how the billing is the same from the government and stuff.
Sure. So SickKids Foundation was established just over 50 years ago, really for the mission of the hospital, to support the hospital, our work here, across the country, and globally, as well as to support pediatric health across the country in different ways through our granting mechanisms. We raise around $160 million a year. 3 years ago, we finished a $1.7 billion campaign, which, to your point, helps get from here to here, but there's still a gap to go. And so we are constantly thinking, how can we be innovative ourselves in our own fundraising to accomplish what the hospital's vision is as well? We have a number of ways that people can get involved, from hosting a community event to becoming a monthly donor, to leaving, Sick Kids as an equity gift to a legacy gift in someone's will, as well as outright gifts through securities, life insurance policies, etc. So we try to stay on the forefront of the sector and the different tax efficient ways of giving, because we know that's important to some people. But even more importantly is the impact and the emotion that comes with it as well. And our jobs are also storytellers. And storytelling is so important to our job of how we are able to speak to the hospital, not as the experts, but really as the connectors between the donor and their intentions and the hospital and their vision.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. So, you pointed out the gap between funding and the actual costs. And the hospitals have to find the money, right? That's kind of the key piece. Um, let's talk about two aspects. The first one I want to talk about is how many procedures happen at Sick Kids that are there. How many of those are the only ones available nationally and internationally? Just to give people a sense of scope and scale.
Yeah, we conducted a survey a few years ago, and we realized that there's over 400 unique procedures or programs that are either unique to Canada that happened at SickKids, or unique in the world that happen at SickKids. And so the fear is ever if any of those disappear, and we don't want them to. And so that's where advocacy to our government takes place. That is where investing in research through philanthropy takes place. Because if they don't happen at SickKids, where will they happen? And so many people rely on us for those procedures and programs that we need them for our society.
Yeah. And then the second one I think is the nuance that Dr. Cohen points out to the government all the time is the procedure for a child is not the same as the procedure for an adult. Maybe help explain that, and just so people understand, like a simple process when you go to the hospital as an adult, or a simple test is
Sure.
simple.
So it's a good question. In general terms, when you think of an adult hospital, the equipment, the needles, the gloves, everything you need is probably in the general same size. So you order bulk. You order a lot of those sizes to achieve what you need to. At a children's hospital, you need everything this big, this big, this big, this big, and this big. So the costs are different because we need to order different things en masse as well. When it comes to specific procedures, some procedures we are paid the same way that an adult procedure is paid at the children's hospital, even though the complexity might be different, the number of individuals working in that surgery might be different. So there's an imbalance in terms of the compensation that comes back to the hospitals between adult care and children care. And we're trying through Dr. Ronnie Cohen and our executive team and our boards trying to make that case that it is a different way of caring for our population, and we just want to make it more equitable in the future.
Yeah, I think the example, if I were correct, was anesthesiology for a child patient versus an adult patient. Those are two different things, and one is far more complex than the other. So, very cool. Um, so we've talked through, how we met. We talked through the Upside Foundation and how that's now a part of the SickKids Foundation, and how that giving opportunities there for founders, I think, is super key. Talked a bit about what the hospital does. Let's get into some of the precision child health because, our family made a donation and gift in to donate the research chair for AI. That was part of the vision, but really catalyzed in my mind some of the activities. So that started a long time ago, but maybe talk through, we call it Sky, Sick Kids AI, and kind of just even recently the big announcement and why this is now a global thing.
Yeah, Sky has really catapulted itself over the last few years, and specifically, Sky itself has rebranded itself over the last 2 years. And under the leadership of Dr. Ronnie Cohen and our executive vice president, Jeff Mainland, and our two co leads, Dr. Anna Goldenberg and Dr. Devin Singh, they have really developed this runway or landing pad for any ideas across the hospital. So they could be from the scientific side, the research side, the clinical side, the administrative side, as a way to how do we leverage AI? And sitting around the table literally are the lawyers, the ethicists, the scientific leads, the clinical leads, so that you are not going around the hospital and administration areas to try to get buy-in. Everyone is around that table at one time. And so really the idea is landing on that pad. You can think of it as a Formula One race. Everyone changes the wheels, everyone jumps on that car, and then lets it go to win the race. And so that's really what Sky is doing. It is leveraging the waterfalls of data that we collect every day at Sick Kids, ensuring that it's consistent and good data. And how do we use that to make our healthcare more effective, more efficient, and ultimately to drive better health outcomes? And those two examples I gave, one of getting children through the emergency room faster. The goal isn't to get them through faster. The goal is to get them the right diagnoses, treatment, and care faster so that they can get home, because we know kids get better when they're at home. And on the predicting cardiac arrests, imagine 5 minutes before a child suffers from a cardiac arrest, or 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, we're able to predict through an algorithm using our precision child health vision that that child will suffer from that. So now we're being predictive. We can get the right people at the right time, the right medication, the right equipment at that bedside to reduce any kind of harmful effects across the body. That is what precision child health is all about. And that's why investing in AI and data intelligence is so important.
Amazing. There's another example I always like talking about is, Dr. Devin Singh. And for those who don't know him, you should get him on sometime too. He's great. He's an emergency room doctor and a computer scientist all in one. When he's not treating in the triaging and treating in the emergency room, he's building a company, which is super exciting. He talks about the ocular look in the eye that doctors do with the light. And he triaged. I want to remember. I might get this wrong, but only 10% of doctors can actually do it. Not because it's not important. It's just it's tricky. Uh, and if you go through this hospital like Fox does at Wayne Enterprises, there's things that you'll see in the IP engine that are like, hey, we're no longer using a light and a magnifying glass. We're putting on a patch and it's going to identify it for you, right? These are the types of things that we're seeing, across the industry here. I feel like devices, treatment, and then actual cures of things are all kind of there. And Sick Kids is super famous for a bunch of things. Cystic fibrosis kids going home at an older age is one of them. And then the work that I think Dr. Goldenberg is doing is foundational. She's got some amazing publications in some of the top journals and stuff. So I think it's just a whole engine and catalyst. So anybody interested in AI in a use that's outside of making cool videos, something that's a bit more important. There's SKAI, Sky at SickKids is the place. Let's switch gears a bit to what you do, because I think what you do is fascinating, and in an interesting way, it's a couple of stories and lessons for founders that, I don't think they really fully understand. So, as founders, we're selling. We're selling employees on a vision, we're selling investors on potential, we're selling customers on belief, trust, and outcomes. I feel like in some way you're doing something similar, just in a different vernacular. So to set up framework, and then I'll hand it to you, is like, you know, there's always an ask of something, and the way these things get asked are foundationally the same, but tactically different. So maybe just walk through that and kind of how you see this. I'm contributing to save lives. Go right.
Yeah, it's a great point, and every time you said selling a vision, selling impact, I would replace that on our side with inspiring with a vision, inspiring with impact. And as I said at the beginning, we're really storytellers, and our number one job, on the development side that I oversee, but also on our marketing side and operations and IT is to inspire and to build relationships. And it goes back to trust. And Mike Catchin this morning at CAX was talking about Wealthsimple in the early days. And what was so key, that where you put your money, you need to trust that organization. And we feel the same. And it can take days or months, it can take years to establish trust with a potential donor for your organization. And so we have this, accountability to our donor community to inspire trust, to inspire hope. And that's what the hospital brings, and to inspire a future where there are healthier children. I feel, as I said at the beginning, I have the best job because I get to meet incredible people like yourselves and others who want to give back. And I feel that I'm the matchmaker. I meet individuals, I meet families, companies, trustees of estates, founders who have a vision of where they'd like their legacy to be. I then work with the hospital to see if there's the right fit for that. And then I bring everyone together. And so, really, I call ourselves the matchmakers of the philanthropic world. We're bringing together great people with great ideas to create great outcomes.
Amazing. Let's get a bit tactical here. So as founders, we always have the ask, and the ask, if we get to the right thing, is a specific ask. In your case, it's usually a number that comes with some dressing of what it is. Walk me through, and I remember sitting in the room over there on the couch with you, and you finally asked for the number. I remember that moment vividly. Maybe walk through kind of the psychology of, like, how do you ask, and what's a successful ask? And it doesn't have to be in your business, but any business. And then how do you take a no with a, not without losing the relationship, but a no, not yet, a no, not now. Like, maybe kind of just walk through those things.
Yeah, I call it the fundraiser's gut. And the fundraiser gut, you build it over your career, and you really get a sense of when you need to ask and for how much. And you're looking at the affinity of the individual, you're looking at the financial capacity of the individual. When you're talking about companies, you're looking for the vision, the goals, who their customers and clients are, but also what gap are they trying to fill in their company, and what can a brand like SickKids bring to help fill that gap through a financial partnership. The ask is an art in terms of the when. I find asking for a range is often important to get a sense of what they could be thinking. And then sometimes I go a little above that range, just to show what could be. And very oftentimes that individual or company will be inspired to do even more than they thought they could. We also talk a lot about the tax incentives. We talk about recognition and whether that's important to individuals, families, companies, states. When you get the no, and I teach at George Brown, the fundraising class there, and it sounds very cheesy, but you grow from the no. And the no isn't personal. The no is a not now, because we don't know what's happening in that person's life, that corporate's life, an estate gift that's being managed. So we try to follow up to that no with, can we keep you posted? Can we continue to engage with you? 99% of the time, it's a yes. And so we try to take it as a not now, unless we were told it's a never. And we continue to engage because, as I said, we just build those relationships. And oftentimes it wins out because we haven't pushed, we haven't stepped back,
Yeah.
we've kept with that person.
I think there's a really great lesson in there for whether you're a founder, investor, whomever, whatever you're doing. It's the art of the ask, and how, the when, and the we all take a bunch of no's, right? No is a fact of life, and it's how you grow from those no's, which I think is really important. And you learn from those no's. It's hardening your gut, as you talk about in there, and I think people should really take that to heart. It's not personal. Like, people aren't saying no because they don't like you. They don't like
Yeah,
something in the opportunity in the moment, and that's okay, right? Like, the world's not perfect that way for you. It's not molded for you unless you're in your own simulation. So you
exactly.
gotta
And
just
Amar, one part of the fundraiser gut is actually knowing who should make the ask. And sometimes it's not you. And that can be difficult when you're being the one or you've been the one that has developed the relationship, has grown close to the individual, but you just feel someone else asking might, push it over in terms of the yes, whether it's a peer, someone with a different title, an expert in a different field. And so part of that gut is determining who is the best person to make that ask to be most successful.
right. That's very cool. Um, oh, that's fascinating. Uh, any story you wanna share without names and numbers that might be interesting learning case for people?
Yeah, I have a number of stories having been here for 16 years. I was able to work with a family around 10 years ago that had invested in a research grant for an up and coming doctor. And this doctor was able to do deep brain stimulation, which was quite new back then, and some of the firsts of its kind at SickKids. And over the years, he continued to grow in his career, and the family continued to support not necessarily him, but that area. And a few years later, when there was a number of people knocking on this surgeon's door because he was so successful, this family actually stepped up to establish a chair in this area. And he was a successful candidate to hold that chair. And so it's an incredible story of a family believing in someone at an early point in their career, almost like an investor with the founder, and then seeing them grow and being there at the other side to even give them more of a bump in their career and to recognize them because a chair is, as you know, is probably one of the most prestigious positions you could hold at a university or a hospital, and it is likely the best person in the world in that area that is holding that role. So we at SickKids use that to retain and attract the very best. And this chair position was actually used to retain one of the best in deep brain stimulation. And the work that he has done since has been incredible. And the family feel like they want to adopt him because they feel so close to his journey and are so impressed with what he's done for children's health, not only in Canada, but around the world. So that's just one example of many of having been here for 16 years, I've now seen these cycles of donors getting further and further engaged with the hospital and some full circle moments coming around, which as the fundraiser, the maker, to look back at where we started is pretty incredible.
That's amazing. It's precisely a funding relationship with founders, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
And
wow.
and Amar, I should also say some donors give us test gifts. So you mentioned, getting involved, you know, in younger years at a point in your career where you might not have the $1,000 to give away, choosing a monthly donation just to start giving. It could be $5 a month. It could be $10 a month. It could be joining a program at an organization. So those founders thinking of the Upside Foundation, if they're interested in a charity, any charity across Canada as maybe the successful charity after they exit, we start donating to them as a monthly donor right now. And building that engagement with them so that when that exit does happen through the Upside Foundation, you feel even more great about giving that donation to that charity.
I think let's refine the prompt there. I think it's super important. You don't have to give the big gift as the first gift, and I think that's usually hardest for people. But when you start with some muscle memory across whatever thing that you have, whether it's philanthropy or whatever it is, when you get more time or more money to focus on these things, it's a natural thing. I think that's just one of the things that I've learned over time that I'd like to share with everybody. Is like, you can start with $5. Everybody can give $5, right? Like, but nobody watching this can say I can't give $5, right? Like, that's just, and I think that's just really an important aspect of it, just to get people to, you get to see the organization, you get to understand what they're doing, you get to meet some of the people, you get to come to maybe an event or two where you get to meet other people who are donating $5 a month, and like, hey, why are you doing this, right? And then it's just like it pays itself far more than the cost of entry is what I tell.
And it's also bringing your head above water. You know, when you're a founder, so I've come to understand you are dedicating 25 hours a day, investing in your idea and your company. And so being able to think or get that email from that charity or that impact report or being part of something bigger than you yourself could do, take that kind of breath and think, yeah, I'm doing something great as well. As investing in my company, I'm already contributing to something else that I never thought I could until I had those big dollars, as you say. But I
Yeah.
can do that now.
Yeah. It'll open a new door of mindset, I think is what I can go back and say.
Great.
Let's kind of steer in a different direction here. What will SickKids look like and be known for 2030, 2040, 2050?
SickKids will be known for answers. And that really goes back to precision child health. The goal is using that genetic code and postal code to find answers. And while we might not have the cure, sometimes an answer is enough for families. It is a name to something. It might be a cause of something. There might not be a treatment, but at least there's an answer. And oftentimes, when there's the answer, people think they're the only one in the world that has something. They're probably not, because now we have an answer for someone else once we define that first answer, and then someone else. And so, what I'd love SickKids to be known for in 2030 or beyond is we are the place of answers. We are the place where you have built the trust, and we will find the answer for you.
Amazing. All right, we usually have a couple of rapid fire things to close out with our guests, and you've been amazing guests. So thank you for your time and
Thank you.
sharing what you're up to at the Sick Kids Foundation and the Upside Foundation, which is now part of the Sick Kids Foundation. And I think it's hopefully everybody listening can understand it. Ready?
I'm ready. Go for it.
Red or white?
Red,
Okay. Are you in the 5 a.m. club or 3 cups of coffee before?
5 a.m.
This one's a tricky one for me because I know what the answer is. It's a Saturday afternoon, your phone is off. Where will we find you?
If my phone is off, there's maybe Amar knows me too well. I am in a summer afternoon, probably on Saturday, um, with a coffee in hand with my wife and daughters at our local park, me pushing the swing with my other hand.
Oh, beautiful. How do people find you? Because I find you're starting to give talks. You were just at a presentation earlier today in front of a large audience. Your impact is growing. The whole foundation and the hospital's impact is growing. And I'll tell everybody, it's there's no obligation having a conversation with you, right? It's just time. Where do they find you? How do they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me there. You can look at upsidefoundation.ca. You can look up sickkidsfoundation.com. I'm kind of like I'm everywhere. So if you have any issues, maybe I should say contact Amar
Yeah,
if you need to find me.
yeah.
But definitely, please reach out. Happy to answer any questions, and always just happy to have a discussion of what you want to achieve and whether Sick Kids Foundation is the one to help or any other charity. Now with the Upside Foundation, we can find the answer for you.
Amazing. You've been such an inspiration for our family and our journey. Thank you. Thanks for showing us that cap table can be a force for good. And to our listeners, if you're building something great, you manage your cap table and mantle, you want greatness and a legacy, head over to upsidefoundation.ca. See you next time.
Thank you, Amar.
Thank you.